Hey there, good morning and welcome to the Weather Network. It is Tuesday, March the 5th. I'm Michelle Mackey and we are waking up to yet another below seasonal day. But today, there's some snow in the forecast. This morning, waking up to a wind chill of minus 24. Another extreme cold weather alert in place again today from the city of Toronto. And when we take a look at the hourly forecast, you'll see why. As we move into the warmest hours of the day, we are still over 10 degrees below seasonal right across southern Ontario. You'll also begin to see those snowfall icons really begin to pick up as we move into the noon hour. For Toronto, between about 11 and noon, we'll begin to see the chance of some flurries. But as we look into the evening hours, it's looking like the QEW corridor, that 401 corridor between Toronto and Oakville down towards Hamilton, not great for the evening commute. And with more snow on the way, this means more work for the city of Toronto's winter operations. Of course, the snow removal blitz is ongoing. They tweeted this out yesterday. Approximately over 1,700 loads of snow have been hauled to snow storage sites, and approximately 277 curb kilometers of snow have been removed. And there's more snow coming tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, I don't think we're going to see much in the way of measurable snow, but the trough that's triggering our snow today, hot on the heels of it, is yet another trough that's going to move through. And with the switch up in the wind direction tomorrow, more of a west-northwest flow, we could see some snow squalls develop as well. And this is going to usher in another burst of cold Arctic air. So speaking of temperatures, let's take a look at how we're doing as we move into tomorrow. -7 at the warmest part of the day in the city of Toronto. A deadly tornado outbreak gripped the Southeast US over the weekend. Here's what happened and the impact. Hey there, good morning. Rise and shine on this very cold Tuesday, March the 5th. And yes, there is some snow in the forecast. All of the major routes looking pretty good through the GTA this morning. The evening, we are watching for some snow to move in. It's going to be heavy-ish, I would say, with some brief interruptions in visibility between Toronto and the Hamilton corridor for that evening commute, and then the late evening commute down towards Niagara region. So keep that in mind if you're heading to the Raptors game this evening in the city of Toronto. Happy Tuesday, I'm Michelle Mackey, joining you here on the Weather Network. You know, I was just thinking as I was getting the countdown to the start of this segment, I probably should have started with a nicer graphic, not the yet another city of Toronto issuing an extreme cold weather alert. You know, we had 15 of these back in January. So we've only had a couple in March. I know we're only 5 days in, but I'm trying anything I can to bring you some warmth on this very, very cold day. This morning, as you step out your door, it is going to be feeling like the -20s right across the board. You need to dress accordingly. And also, maybe bring some snow gear, certainly pack some snow gear for the kids when they head off to school, because we are going to see some flurries through the day today, really picking up for the city of Toronto between that 10 and 11 a.m. hour. By the time we get to noon, you're walking to lunch. That's when the snow will be falling, but it's going to be a little bit heavier for areas Toronto down towards Hamilton for the evening commute. Now, widespread, we're thinking around that 2 to 5 centimeter mark. Some will exceed that, especially where we have the lake enhancement with that southwesterly flow up towards Napanee and Picton. That's where we could exceed 10 centimeters of snow. There is a snow squall watch for the area. Keep that in mind if you're heading along that eastern 401 corridor. And then between Hamilton and Niagara Falls later tonight, let's say around that 6 to 8 p.m. hour, that is when we're going to see the heavier snow for that area. So plan your travel accordingly. As I mentioned, here's your snow squall watch. The falling snow, the blowing winds, reducing visibility, and here's what's causing all of this active weather. It's this trough that's sliding through and bringing us that cold Arctic air once again as we head into tomorrow. Wednesday morning, we are once again waking up to wind chills into the -20s. When will it improve? Well, it is looking like we'll closely moving back to seasonal as we get into early week next week, but watching a system as we head into your Sunday. And speaking of systems, right now, we're talking about the power of tornadoes. To remind you that winter really can be beautiful, but I'm sure you're not necessarily going to agree with that when I give you today's forecast. It is cold and we have snow. I know. I'm Michelle Mackey. It's so good to have you here with us. Let's begin with a look at our satellite and radar imagery. We are dealing with a little bit of snow up towards the Bruce Peninsula this morning, but it won't be until around that 10 a.m., 11 a.m. hour when we begin to see those flurries move into the downtown core. However, you'll note up towards Napanee, Picton area, that is where we are going to see some of those heavier bursts of snow through the morning, and as a result, there are some alerts for the area. If you're traveling along that 401 corridor, keep that in mind. But in terms of your commuting time, I'm going to play this one more time just so we can take a closer look. It's looking like around that 3 to 5 p.m. hour between Toronto and Hamilton. That's when we'll see some heavier bursts of snow. Not good timing with the evening commute. And then the late evening commute, 6 to 8, we'll see that heavier snow along the QEW corridor between about Hamilton and Niagara. So in terms of how much snow we're expecting, generally 2 to 5 centimeters. We do, however, have the potential to exceed that locally, especially for our snow squall watch area, Picton through to Napanee. Local amounts could exceed 10 centimeters. The winds, that's what's driving this lake enhancement for the region. But we're going to be feeling those winds with the bitter cold right across the board today. It's a southwest flow, but it is not doing much to warm things up. And as we move into tomorrow, yet another trough is going to move through, bringing us the risk of more flurries, not quite as widespread as today, but it's reinforcing that cold air that we are certainly feeling this afternoon, minus 17 at the warmest part of the day. It's time now for the 3 Ps of cold and winter with Rachel Schutzen. Hey there, good morning and welcome to the Weather Network. I'm Michelle Mackey, joined by Chris Murphy, Nicole Karkic. You know, clothing bins have recently come under fire following yet another death this winter. 4 cities in British Columbia have now banned the bins, and now the city of Toronto is reviewing what to do about the clothing drop boxes bylaw. So I had a chance to catch up with the city. Here's the report.
It's so tragic, and I mean, I look at these boxes and people climbing in, they want the warmth, they want to get the clothes. How are they getting in and thinking they're going to get back out?
Well, one of the interesting points that I learned at this meeting was that often these folks who are so desperate, they go in twos. But for some reason, Crystal that night decided to go alone.
Oh, so they think they're going to get help coming out.
There's a lot of cold air still to deal with. In fact, we take a look at some statistics here. We talk.
Rise and shine and bundle up on this Tuesday, March the 5th. I'm Michelle Mackey. You're watching the Weather Network, and we are watching for cold temperatures once again today and some snow squalls. So here's the setup as we look at our satellite and radar imagery. Still dealing with some flurries up towards the Bruce Peninsula, and now seeing some of those flurries begin as well along the northern shore of Lake Erie. Snow squall watches have been issued from Napanee through to Picton. Keep that in mind if you're doing any traveling along that 401 corridor. But into the afternoon, that's when we're looking at conditions deteriorating between Toronto and Hamilton. Not good news for the evening commute, and then Hamilton along that QEW corridor towards Niagara Falls between 6 and 8. We will have brief periods of reduced visibility. Now, we're not looking at an epic snowfall amount by any means, generally 2 to 5 centimeters, probably only 1 to 3 centimeters for downtown Toronto. It's coupled with the blowing winds that is going to be problematic on the roads. Let's take a closer look at where we have those snow squall watches in place. This is also indicative of where we could exceed that 2 to 5 centimeter mark. There could be local amounts here up to 10 centimeters, coupled with those strong southwesterly winds. It's looking like the strongest winds for those of us in Toronto will peak around lunchtime into early afternoon and then ease as we move towards dinner. A switch up in the wind direction as we move into tomorrow. More of a westerly flow, ushering in more cold Arctic air. So this afternoon, city of Toronto, minus 17 is what it's feeling like at the warmest part of the day. Yet another extreme cold weather alert still in place for the city of Toronto. Keep that in mind. Stay safe if you need to spend some extended time outside. There's your trough that's been triggering this active weather. Another one moves through tomorrow. Just some scattered flurries in the forecast. Drive safe. And if you ever get stranded in a snowstorm, here's what you need to do. Great to have you here with us this morning on the Weather Network. I'm your host, Michelle Mackey, in for Emily Vukovic. It is yet another frigid start to the day, and the wind's a little bit stronger today in comparison to yesterday. Plus, we have some snow in the forecast. There's a lot to break down. Waking up to a wind chill of minus 23, and we really won't see much improvement into the afternoon. At the warmest part of the day, it will be feeling like minus 17 with those westerly winds gusting upwards of about 50 kilometers an hour as we move into, let's say, that 2 o'clock time frame. We're also watching for some flurries. Now, not a lot in the way of snow accumulation, generally across southern Ontario, 2 to 5 centimeters. However, there are a few pockets where we could exceed that, a few pockets where we might be below that. City of Toronto, downtown core, 1 to 3 centimeters. But it's going to be the timing of the snow that isn't great for morning commuters along the eastern 401 corridor near Cobourg up towards Picton, and then the evening commute from Toronto down to Hamilton, and the late evening commute from Hamilton through to Niagara. So time yourself accordingly. We do have a snow squall watch in place for Napanee through to Picton. Blowing snow a concern here, and also we could get up to about 10 centimeters of snow locally in this area due to some lake enhancement with that southwesterly flow. So the cold Arctic air here today, the cold Arctic air is going to stick around right through Thursday because another trough is going to move in tomorrow, ushering in that cold air mass from the north. So by the time you wake up Wednesday morning, it's a bit of a rinse and repeat. The good news tomorrow, I'm trying desperately to find some good news for you. We do have some flurries, just scattered flurries. Not quite as much as what we're expecting today. And then there's a warm up as we move towards the weekend. And next week, hey, March break, it's right around the corner. Maybe you're heading south, hopefully. Here are 10 packing tips.